Oh, I didn't know that was. I went to turn up my audio on my phone and it just started recording. So, hi. um, this is gonna be first video of this type of channel and content that I'm doing. I don't know if I'll do more of this, but this is just kind of something I felt like I wanted to do, so I'm doing it. Give a little intro. My name is Brandon. I am just a person with ADHD, and this video is kind of talking about how people with ADHD struggle with reading books, and kind of how to do something about that. So, to preface all of this, I'm not a licensed professional. I'm not a licensed anything. I'm just a guy wanting to share experiences and kind of find commonality, I guess, because I'm sure there's a lot of you who feel the same way I do when it comes to stuff like this. So, for me personally, when it comes to reading books, now let me also preface, I do like books. When I was a kid, I would read until like sunset, and just you could not get a book away from me, whether it was Goosebumps or something else. I was reading all the time. I would read like entire books in a day. But then as I got older, as I got into my teenage years and my adult years, reading books became a lot more difficult. Why is that? Because, ADHD is more prominent in children than it is in adults, right? Well, while ADHD is more prominent in children, yes, and some people either outgrow it or it just never was, because as children we just have vivid imaginations, right? ADHD presents itself differently in children than it does in adults. From what I've looked into and from what I've looked up, when you're a kid, especially a kid with ADHD, you have more troubles expressing yourself. You have more trouble expressing feelings and stuff like that, but you hyper focus like crazy. So you can read books front to back, no problem. But as you get older, things kind of change. And it also depends, too, because ADHD can be separated into two categories. There's a hyperactivity, and then there's the inattentiveness. See, when I was a kid, I was hyperactive, and then as I grew older, it became inattentive. I'm still kind of both, but I digress. So, what do you do about it? Right? What do you do about it? There's people who are on meds for it. They try meditation, they try this, that, and the other thing. I don't take medication. I've never been medicated, so my diagnosis is technically null and void because I never wanted to take their drugs. And by no means, I'm not shaming anyone who does take medication. My form of it is much more manageable than others that I've seen. So that's just, again, just a guy sharing personal experiences. What I find helps, if you're someone who likes to read books and you have ADHD, and you have ADHD or any sort of attention disorder that you have and you struggle to read, so what do I mean by struggle to read? It's not that, people with ADHD, it's not that we can't read. Most of us are quite literate. It's that you'll start reading and stop it. You'll start reading, right? Say, I don't know. Well, we'll use a very generic example. Say you're reading once upon a time a princess ran into a field of flowers, right? You read that line. You can envision that line. It's a pretty easy line to envision. But then you start trying to read everything else, but that line is still repeating itself over and over and over. So you're reading more words, but you're not taking in anything that you're reading, because that first line is repeating itself in your head because your mind is tethered to that line. And, you know, as people with ADHD, we get bored easily, and we have no real control over that because our minds wander. So, and a lot of us are really hard on ourselves for it. So, a good thing that I learned to do, because when I used to approach reading books, I would sit there, I would open a book, and I'd go, okay, I'm going to read, I'm going to really focus on reading, I'm going to sit here, and it's, yeah. And I would set kind of an unrealistic standard for myself, because in the back of my head, I knew that I wasn't going to get very far. So it would set an unrealistic standard. So what I started doing instead is I would sit down, I would let go of all expectations. Don't set a standard for yourself. Don't set anything. Don't go into it expecting anything. You sit down, you just start reading, and you go as far as your mind will let you go. If it's a sentence, 2 sentences, a paragraph, whatever, doesn't matter. Just read what your brain will let you read. If you start wandering off or the lines start overlapping, stop. Close the book, put it away, revisit it later. The great thing about a book, as opposed to, say, things on the internet, well, they're kind of similar, is you can just revisit it later. It's not going anywhere. And over time, you may notice that when you get rid of that expectation of yourself, when you don't go into reading a book expecting that you're going to read this huge amount, you will eventually start being able to just read more and envisioning things in your head. Like envisioning what you're reading in your head, which again, for us with ADHD is really hard to do. So, yeah, like if that's, if you're someone with ADHD and you really want to get into reading books, that's something I would recommend. Like, especially before bed. Like, turn off all your electronics, turn off any harsh lighting or anything like that, have on a lamp that has like a warm bulb, and just open a book, read what you can. Like, I've gotten to a point where I'm reading before bed and I'm falling asleep while I'm reading the book, which to me is, I kind of like that, because it's not me trying to fall asleep with a bright phone in my face, which can be really hard, and it's really hard on your eyes. So yeah, like that's all I can really recommend for that. It's harmless. It's not gonna do, like, right? But yeah, let me know in the comments what your guys' experiences with stuff like this is, and if you have other experiences or other ways of going about it, let me know. I'm very much open to discussion on this kinds of stuff. As I said, will I make more videos like this? Maybe. It's one of those things where I've had a lot on my mind, and this just kind of seems like the way to express it. But yeah, I'll shut up.